goes live in 2 minutes. Lynn Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Oh boy, it's Friday again, man. I feel like Monday was yesterday. It's very strange. Time keeps on slipping into the future. Anyway, yeah, it's Friday, the 8th of March. Can the Ides be far behind? Actually, so the Ides would be next Friday? The Ides of March? It's the 15th. Yeah, for what that's worth, I don't know. So if if the 15th of the month was called the Ides, is there a word for the 14th and the 13th and the 12th and the 11th? I'm just asking, because why did that one day have a word? Or does Ides mean 15? I don't know. Do I care? Not particularly, I guess. But it's a thought. So, I was, right before the show started, didn't have time to finish it, reading a fascinating piece from National Geographic about de-extinction. De-extinction is a new word, I guess, that scientists are using to define the opposite of extinction. If a species is extinct, it's essentially, it's gone, it's dead, it's, De-extinction would be taking an extinct species and reanimating it, bringing it back. And, of course, this would be impossible, would have been impossible up until recently. And now, according to scientists, it's very possible. The question is it ethical? The question is it a good idea? Just because you can do something, should you do that thing? Should we bring back the woolly mammoth? Should we bring back the Tasmanian tiger? I'm looking at a picture of one. It's a fascinating-looking creature. And there was still a Tasmanian tiger wandering around, some 80 years ago. It's not quite like the woolly mammoth. But to look at the arguments pro and con of why is to, really force your head to engage in some serious exercise. There was a meeting of scientists at the National Geographic headquarters in Washington last year to talk about the science and the ethics of de-extinction. And apparently next week there is going to be a larger group of scientists engaging in the same conversation, and this will be available to you because it's a public TEDx conference. Now, Jess, are you aware of TEDx? Or TED-ish? I keep hearing this, and I'm not sure what it is. It is an internet kind of a gathering. Can you? I
don't know much about it.
You don't, but it's where you don't know.
Not really. It's like an app or something.
It's an app that you can whatever. Watch. Would you look it up? So anyway, this is going to be a TEDx conference, and the public very much invited. And it sounds like it'd be a pretty fascinating discussion. You know, on the negative side, you've got the images from Jurassic Park, but there's also the possibility that, are we tinkering with Mother Nature if we bring back an animal that we ourselves were responsible for making extinct? Because most of these species that have found themselves extinct are extinct as a result of human behavior. So is it something that we should remedy now that we can? A huge mea culpa. Gosh, I'm sorry I did this to you, but here, let's bring you back. Or if a species is extinct, is that the way of the world? And, leave it, because tampering with nature often does not turn out well. You're getting
Basically, they're saying they want to stimulate dialogue through TED-like experiences, but I'm not really sure what TED is.
So it is, but TED stuff is something about making people think. I was just talking to Vanessa German, the marvelous performance artist and activist, the other day, and she had been at a TED. She just, I let it go. I didn't say a TED something conference in Boston where she was, appearing with some Harvard professor and a this and a that, and so I don't understand. It's beyond me. If anybody can help us with that, feel free, because I also have a friend who told me there's all these marvelous things on TED and gave me a link to it, and so maybe I don't know. The fact is there's a lot out there that some of us just don't know how to get to. So advances in cloning technology and the ability to not only now read DNA but actually write DNA, which gets us close to, playing God, if humans can write DNA. But all of these abilities make it much, much, much likelier that we could, in fact, scientifically concoct a genetic approximation of an extinct species. All we need is some DNA. So if you dig up, an old something, you can extract DNA from the bones, right? And create, on paper, is absolutely doable. So exactly, it gets us to Jurassic Park. And they said that what would, for argument's sake, what would mean that an animal had been brought back from extinction? When would you say that, okay, we've done it? And the thinking seems to be that when we actually produce an extinct animal, and a few others, that can, in fact, reproduce a healthy offspring themselves, then you've got it, obviously, you got it going again. So the arguments for are, we can do it because we should do it because we can do it. This is progress. This is science. And, you can no more hold it back than holding back the sea. And then there is that argument that I alluded to before, that we have actually an obligation to do it since we, in large part, humans, have driven so many of these animals to extinction. The anti-side is, hey, guys, slow down. We don't yet have any clear notion of how exactly, once you were to bring these animals back, you would reintroduce them to to their ecosystem, to the, oh, look who's back. And what their reintroduction would mean for other species. Also, those who argue against this say, hey, look, there are lots of other species that are still with us but are critically endangered, and it would seem to make a lot more sense to spend our brilliance and increasing abilities in this realm to save other species from becoming extinct rather than trying to reanimate the dead. So it'd be like hey, look, you've got a dying patient here that you can conceivably save. So why are you over there in the morgue trying to, get that dead patient to come back alive? Let's deal with the reality, and let's deal with the ones that are still, in fact, here. So this is, I would think that'd be, if you're interested at all in the ethics and even the science of de-extinction, I'm just here telling you that the conference is next Friday, March 15th. And I don't know how you, how do you get a TEDx de-extinction conference? If you want to look that up. I don't know. Just one of those things you can think about when you're sitting quietly by oneself. Speaking of sitting quietly by oneself, this is something I note a lot. There are many people, especially younger people, who have never, in recent memory, done that, sat quietly by themselves. That would require, no input from anywhere. Hello, a caller?
Yes, this is Clarence from Canonsburg.
This would be Clarence from Canonsburg. Hi.
Sorry, what did you just say?
What?
Oh.
Hi. I said hi.
Oh, okay.
Essentially.
Okay, you're talking about, the genetics and bringing back extinct species. I heard a thing on the radio yesterday about them injecting human brain cells into mice.
Oh, boy.
Hear about that one?
No.
They injected human brain cells into baby mice.
Oh, poor things.
And the baby mice grew up as faster learners. They made smarter mice. So the first, you're talking about Jurassic Park. I was thinking about the Star Trek episodes where they made superhumans. I went, Khan! That to me is even more frightening than the, bring it back, the Jurassic Park scenario.
Yeah.
But there's two sides to that. If you can, when you're injecting brain cells in, you can cure all kinds of things because there's a lot of disorders that have to do with, neurons and brain cells.
Right.
So that's like one side if they can figure out how to do that, but, creating more intelligence. But, let me say this too, the evolution of humans is more with technology than, natural selection. That's the way we're going to evolve. You've talked about this before. Sam talking about our robot overlords. We're going to be cyborgs.
I was actually talking to a roboticist about that. I said my son, when he was about 6 or 7, said to me, "You're lucky, Mom. You'll never have to live under robot overlords." And the guy laughed, but the more he thought, he emailed me later and said, I have not been able to stop thinking about that. And he looked some stuff up and actually found a whole bunch of articles. There was one written by some roboticist about this creeped me out, actually. How would we allow ourselves to be? No, I'm going off subject here, but the thing is that they're finding out that we humans do not really respond well to a lot of robotic demands. In other words, if you have a robot or a disembodied voice, or which we have already all around us, if robots tend to speak in a very sort of direct way, now put that on top of this, something like that. And they realize that people don't react well because that's not like human speech. That human speech is more congenial. Why don't you try to put now that on top of this? And so they're savvy enough now, the people who are making robots, to make them more polite, more maybe seemingly obsequious. And to me, that's even worse, because if they start acting just like us, then we can forget that they in fact are not human.
There's all types of sci-fi shows about that scenario, but this whole thing with scientists and being able to, I think one of the main problems is that humans don't want to conserve or think about too far into the future. I've had this argument about there's going to be a huge water problem.
Oh, yes.
So basically, the only way to stop it is to conserve water.
Now.
But nobody's going to do it. Because I think in the back of their minds, they know in the future they'll just be able to desalinate ocean water.
Oh, that's what they think. But
yeah.
There's a story, and I didn't read it, in the New York Times today about some water battle going on out west, and the battle is over control of groundwater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things that right now here in western Pennsylvania, well, everywhere in Pennsylvania, really, that that to me that's the biggest argument about Marcellus Shell drilling. The water. You're using way too much water. There's just not enough of it. But the effect won't be seen for like 20-something years, so nobody's thinking about that.
That's correct. We do not.
So I would tell people, I'll be dead when this stuff hits the fan, so you better, if you want to protect your kids, you better start conserving now, but nobody's listening.
We're just not built that way.
Yeah.
And less so than ever because of the sort of the ability for something that seems like instant gratification. The minute we want information now, we can get it. The minute this, the minute that, we want. Our entertainment culture has made us think that things are resolvable in 30 minutes, 60 minutes, whatever. I don't know. No, long-term planning. It's not what we do. And
back to your subject. TED Talks are cool.
What's cool?
TED Talks.
Yeah. So how do you access?
If you just typed in a Google search TED,
mm-hmm.
TED, it stands for technology, something, and something else.
I'm going to say technological education dissemination.
Okay. Yeah, it started out a long time ago. It was basically for the rich and the famous. They gave these talks. And then they just started putting them on the web for free for people. It cost a lot to get into those things.
Okay.
And but I've been looking at those things for at least 8 years. But if you go there, they cover all kinds of different subjects and stuff like that. They're just videos. It's 20 minutes. Most of them are like 20 minutes or less, far less.
Huh.
But they have some really interesting stuff on there. Now, TED has been having a problem because they started doing TEDx, which is, other people in other groups putting on TED Talks and putting them on TED. And TED had a really restrictive things about accuracy and not getting too political and all that kind of good stuff. But the TEDx things are out there, or, there's been a little bit of controversy about it. But, yeah, I found some really great stuff on there.
So
I have it bookmarked.
Okay, so TED TED and TEDx are different entities doing essentially the same kind of thing.
Yeah, well, TEDx is sort of an offshoot of TED.
Okay.
So more people, more
it's
voices
more
can be heard.
open. Yeah, it's more open.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cool. So, and you can just find it by Googling it and...
Yeah, if you Google just TED, just the word TED, that's going to be one of the first things that come up.
Okay.
If not the first thing.
Probably.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye, Clarence. Bye. Always good to hear from you. No, I was talking about the fact that we're never alone, we're never quiet, we're never out of... And I'm somebody who craves silence. I love it. And it's so hard to find. And I think, like, my son would panic if he were in a situation where he couldn't, like, have music or video or something that was coming in. Just silence. And I think that's indicative of his generation and probably all the generations to come. I took a walk on Sunday, and I felt so free. You know why? I didn't have a cell phone with me. I wasn't listening to anything in my ear. It was just me and whatever real sound was around me. And I thought to myself as I walked through the cemetery, I think I told you this, as I walked through the cemetery, I am out of touch. I'm out of touch, which is something that some people never are anymore and would panic if they thought they were. Because of this damn technology, we now can, and there's an expectation, I think, that we are in touch all the time, that somebody can reach us if they need to. And that, I mean, I lived most of my life in a totally different reality. Before cell phones, before this ability to be in constant touch. And you can argue that, it's the people who don't have cell phones, the big thing that is often said to them is, well, just for safety, you should have a cell phone. I mean, what if you're somewhere? What if when I was taking my walk, I fell down and no one was around? If I had my cell phone, I could save myself. Yeah. But there's a trade-off to all of this, right? And the impact on us in terms of stress levels is, I think, pretty big. Used to be when you left work, you left work. Now, many people never leave work. Never. They are expected to constantly be checking their emails, right? You see everybody always looking. You cannot be out of touch. And the thought of being out of touch is actually sort of frightening. If you work in a business with a number of employees, and all it takes is one to be constantly available to raise the bar. If a boss knows that this person, he can call him at 3 a.m. if he needs to, then there's the expectation that gets set and everybody else understands it. And so everybody makes themselves available. And you never essentially clock out. Some people would say this is what makes Americans the most productive people in the world. I would argue it's also what makes us the most stressed out people in the world and maybe much less happy than we should be. The selling point always was that all of this technology was going to free us, right? And it was always it. It'll free us from labor. It'll free us from all kinds of the sort of dull tasks required of life, and we would have more leisure time. And the reality is absolutely, I think, the opposite. I have a quote here from a guy who heads an ad agency, global ad agency. He's a big honcho. He says, you know, when everyone started carrying their own communication and telecommunications on their bodies, the boundary between work and life simply collapsed. And I think that is true, so that many Americans are never really off work. That's not good. And we all know, even in the inability to go on a vacation without staying in constant touch, or even what I so courageously did on Sunday, for 1 hour, taking myself off the grid. I found it wonderful. But I was, at one point, I became aware, you're out of touch. Whoops. I'm also out of time for this segment. We got to take a break. I want to share with you an email I got from the gentleman whose email kicked off a really good conversation yesterday. This is the guy who wrote me and chastised me for not talking about drones. And his assumption was I wasn't because I'm a liberal and it's Obama's the president and yabba, 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 yabba. And so he is obviously not politically attuned to where I am and where many of you are. But I found the email very provocative, and it touched off a really, really, I thought, great conversation. Anyway, he's emailed again because he wasn't listening when we were talking about him, but he listened later, and we'll have his additional email after this.
Stick around for more with Lynn Cullen Live after this.
Pittsburgh City Paper is available now. Pick up one today for our special summer camp section. Plus, Joel McHale, Lord of the Dance, and the latest news on Ravenstall and the upcoming mayoral election. Pittsburgh City Paper, available at over 1,700 locations throughout Western Pennsylvania and on the web at pghcitypaper.com and on your smartphone at citypapermobile.com.
Packers.
Vikings.
We come from different places.
Uptown.
Downtown.
We come to different conclusions.
Half empty.
Half full.
But when we live united, we make a real difference in the building blocks of life. Children succeed in school, families gain financial stability, the health of our neighbors improves, and suddenly so do our communities. Real change won't happen without you.
Live United.
So give, advocate, volunteer, live united. Sign up today at liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Once again, here's Lynn Cullen.
Okie doke. This is John writing. And he says, Lynn, I regret I was late tuning in today. I had no idea you would read my email at the beginning of your show. In fact, I didn't think you would read it at any time. Thanks. I'm happy I did catch you starting around 10:10. I'm also thrilled you presented the topic of droning and that it received the attention it did. Now, I must laugh when your emailer, he's calling you out, Ray, your emailer, Ray, caught the bit where I said, we are in a battle for the heart and soul of Americans. And Ray pointed out that he said heart and soul, and he should have said hearts and minds. And Ray, John writes, I intended to say mind. He intended to. He did, but soul came out. Whatever. And then he said, shame on me for using soul as opposed to mind, as that cracked open the door for other keen observers, such as Ray, to kick in. Actually, I'm thrilled about that because it proves thinking people are out here. One word poorly chosen, and Ray responds with a dance of his own. So now I learned Muslims are the ones out to capture souls. Did somebody say that? Got it. A mea culpa to any Tea Party adherent who might have been tuned in. Yes, more important, we should influence minds. I don't know. Terrific stuff. He writes. This guy, John here, defended the Tea Party and everything. So he's way, 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 way to the right of where we are. Anyway, he writes, again, I thank you for the time you spent addressing drones, and in one respect I agree with you. Namely, we don't really know where this technology will lead. That said, you say Holder, that's the Attorney General, says, and what's his name? That would be, I guess, Obama, who in his earlier email, John called who? Dear Leader. You say Holder says, and what's his name says, we cannot really say we can guarantee unequivocally that drones will never be used on a non-combatant American in America. Got that as well. Screw the Fifth Amendment, because if and when we get ready, we going to come for you, drone or no drone. Got it. Terrific show. Glad I tuned in. Glad you addressed my topic. Glad we could agree. And hello to Ray. And please keep in mind that while I don't agree with what you say, I shall defend to the death your right to say it. Is that a cliche or just a tiresome expression? I hope that expression is never tiresome. That is, why I'm a proud member of the ACLU. I definitely do support protecting the speech and expression of people who are saying things I do not agree with. And John finishes with, keep doing what you do. And I find this so heartening, guys. At a time when, and John wrote, he said, I really think, we're divided as a nation, half and half, and we're never gonna change each other's minds. And yet, here is a relatively, civil discourse. John, in fact, doesn't agree with us, but he's been listening, and he's now taking part in the discussion. This only creates a better conversation. There's no doubt about that. And one of the things that I have been so angry about my profession, I don't think I should call it a profession, is that when I began doing talk radio, this dividing line had not really been so established. You didn't have to just take one side or the other. You could be just a regular person who sometimes landed over here and sometimes landed over there. And the people who programmed radio and cable television decided that was not a good kind of a format. It was wishy-washy, and it didn't attract an audience. Sort of like, an audience is attracted to a cockfight. An audience does not stand around when two people are engaged in a non-screaming, intelligent conversation. They like the screaming. That draws them. And so during the time I did talk radio, it changed. and I had to change with it. So I was pushed more and more and more into simply standing for the liberal line. And this is a disservice to me and my ability to surprise people sometimes, and my ability to have a nuanced view that doesn't comfortably fit into anybody's little cubby holes. And it has created this, is it Manichaean? Is that what it is? It's black or white, no shades of gray kind of political discourse, which has harmed us. And it's one of the reasons I just hate that format. I hate that kind of thing. And sometimes, and those of you who've listened to me for years and years and years will know that sometimes I have really chafed at what I feel is pressure from my audience to adhere to a certain point of view, when quite frankly, I'm, not quite there. Sorry, not buying that line now. And I've many times garnered incredibly angry reaction from people who would always listen to me say, I'll never listen to you again, because I strolled away on some topic from the catechism. Well, sorry. This is, John, I'm very grateful that you're there. I am. Okay, got some more emails to share, and we even have a caller. Is it a gentleman caller? Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, hi.
How you doing today?
I'm doing okay.
Hey, I changed the subject on, have you ever watched any of this Jodi Arias trial?
You know what? I am proud to say I don't have a clue what that trial is about. I know it's hot, this hot story, and I've been able to sort of figure that it's a woman on trial who killed a boyfriend?
Yes.
And she thinks, she's trying to say it's in self-defense?
Self-defense.
Okay.
And they're trying to prove it premeditated.
Now, of all the trials in the world that are going on right now, is she a babe?
I don't think so.
Well, but why did
they seem to think so.
Why did this one get glommed onto? Do you know? Do you have a sense of that?
I think it's because of people like Jane Velez Mitchell, and they push it, and that's the flavor of the month.
Okay.
But what I was going to say is, this whole thing with the lawyers, they waste so damn much money. Now, this jury asked 30 or 200 questions. They're tying this courtroom up, and I'm thinking the taxpayers, they're paying for all this. This seems to be a bunch of bullshit to me.
Yeah.
But like that Colorado theater killer, they knew the guy did it. Why can't they just put the bastard in jail?
Well, come on.
Or give him the death penalty? I'm just saying, on some cases, we could get all through this red tape.
Yeah, some just seem like slam dunks, but there is...
Right, but it's the lawyers that are making money, and the taxpayers are paying for it. To me, the justice system has a lot to be desired. I know we're supposed to be the best in the world. Well, I'm not so sure about all that.
Oh, no, I don't know that we are. First of all, there's not a lot of justice that necessarily gets done. It's, it's an adversarial way that we decide whether somebody is guilty or not. And we don't get it right all the time, and I don't know. I understand, because one of the things I heard when I was listening to some news on the radio, they said that Arias, is that her name, had been on the stand, personally, has been on the stand for over 14 days?
Yes.
Yeah, well, that's nuts. I agree with you.
I know.
That's
and
nuts.
The judge don't seem like she has any control of it. She's letting it go.
Well, I feel for the jury.
Yep. Okay,
thank you. I feel for him. Jeez. And speaking of jurors, the poor jury in the cannibal case that I've talked about in the past, it's in their hands now. The jury has the case and is deliberating, and the closing arguments laid it out. Because we talked about this. I don't think this guy is guilty. I think he's guilty of some lurid fantasies that are really disgusting. But if we are going to start imprisoning people for things that they're thinking, then I think we're in big trouble. This is a New York City cop. The prosecution in the close said, he left the world of fantasy. He entered the world of reality. And thankfully, he was stopped before he could act. Okay, so this is a guy who said he was going to kidnap a woman. He was going to hang her by her ankle, slit her throat, watch her die, put her on a spit, cook her slowly, blah, 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 stick an apple in her mouth. I don't know. It's just one horror after another. And his attorney, in her closing argument, said, look, guys, this is... You could look at all these things he's posted on the internet, and it is akin to Orson Welles' War of the Worlds broadcast in 1938, which was, it was a fiction, but he depicted it as if, in fact, there were Martians invading I think New Jersey is where they first landed. And the play on the radio, interrupted the orchestra, and it sounded real, and there was panic. And the cannibal's attorney, the would-be cannibal's attorney, said, look, his stories are no more real than the alien invasion was in War of the Worlds. There is no rope, there is no oven, there is no spit, there is no kidnapped woman. The bottom line is nothing happened to any woman because nothing ever was going to happen to any woman. We don't convict human beings because of ugly thoughts. Okay, so he's charged with conspiracy to kidnap, and which is a maximum life sentence, and he's charged with illegally accessing the police database, which he did do to get some information on some of the women he was thinking of doing this to. To me, here's my guess. Here's my guess. The jury's going to acquit him on the kidnapping, and they'll find him guilty because it's known he went into the database. So fine, get him on that. But I don't think that they will fall for the prosecution argument that this is a guy who intended to actually do what he was fantasizing about. Kathy writes about TED. TED Talks are forums that get together specialists and people with knowledge of a specific topic, and then they do a 10 to 30-minute presentation. Every TED Talk I've ever listened to has been interesting and informative. Watch out, though. Once you start watching, you can't stop. I've heard this. The first person who told me about this TED stuff said, you can sit for hours in front of your computer listening to this. But this sounds like time well spent if, in fact, you're going to learn something. This seems like a good idea to me. I'm glad it's out there. This is fantastic. Chuck writes, Lynn, technology is my business. As I sit here each day listening to you, I hear dings and bells every so many minutes. Each email produces a sound, both on my PC and my tablet. My cell phone produces a sound each time I receive a text. Each and every sound alerts me to a message, produces a certain level of anxiety. Oh, wonder what that is. Oh, do I have to look at that right now? Oh. I've been thinking for a long time that there may be a business opportunity in helping people disconnect from technology rather than connect to technology, which is actually how I make my living. We consume so much technology throughout the course of the day that by the end of the day, it's like Thanksgiving night. We've had our fill. We are stuffed. Good one, Chuck. But, you're still, even though you've had your fill and you are stuffed, until you close your eyes and go to sleep, the odds are you're still on the receiving end. You're still taking this stuff in. There is no rest unless you actively go into some quiet place where there is none of it around. Oh, this is nice. Dexter writes, I'm listening. I've listened to you since the late 80s. I love you. I'm also a conservative, like John. Oh, and I disagree with you 90% of the time. Wow. Thank you. I don't know that I would listen to someone I disagree with 90% of the time. But it might be that you just think you like me, right? You like me. You just think I'm hopelessly naive and confused. Marge writes, hi, Lynn. I could get into the drone issue, but it's just too much for me. Do I want the president to have the right to kill Americans without a trial? If they're friends of the Taliban? Yeah! But as I said, it's too much for a Friday. However, canceling White House tours during spring break? Really? This is the only program they could find to cut? Jeez. Have a great weekend. I, too, love a quiet walk. With the dog, of course. Glad to have you back on 4802 tonight. Oh, thanks for reminding me. That's right. I'll be on 4802 tonight. Okay. Oh, Lord. My understanding is the American people think it's fine and dandy for the president to pick off anybody he wants. Anyway. What a world, guys. What a world. Well, we're lucky. We won't have to live under robot overlords. Good jobs report today made those economists look like the idiots they often are. They had said that they expected about 160,000 jobs to be created in the month of February, and they were only off by over almost 100,000. The fact is, we added 236. Oh, so no, it's not that bad. 236,000 jobs, and that is almost double the number of jobs created in January. This is the best month in terms of job creation in the last 4 years. And, of course, I suppose the stock market is continuing. I get very nervous when the stock market goes into one of these because I'm a great believer in what goes up must come down in any of us, and I think we all did, who lived through the dot-com bubble, the housing bubble, all of these things where we thought the money was just going to keep pouring in, and my 401k, I'm gonna be able to retire to my private island in another 5 years. It makes me very, 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 very nervous. But then there's plenty that can do that. All right, we better take a break. I don't know what the hell we're talking about today. What are we talking about today? Stuff? Yeah, stuff. Yeah. So we'll talk about some more stuff when we come back.
Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com or call Lynn at 412-316-3381. Lynn Cullen Live will return in a moment.
Go to BurkeBargains.com for great deals on museums, shows, and meals from your favorite local restaurants. This week only, get discounts up to 30% on gift cards to Hyde Park. Supplies are limited. BurkeBargains.com, Pittsburgh's best bargains. BurkeBargains.com.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we've got a pep talk that can motivate you. sometimes things don't always turn out the way you want them to.
You can improve your future. Now get your game face on and take the first step towards a better life. Hurry up. Don't make me repeat myself.
Whatever level of motivation you need, we've got a pep talk for you. Call 1-877-38-YOUR-GED or visit yourged.org for your pep talk and for free classes in your area. GED is a registered trademark of the American Council on Education. Brought to you by Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Have a question or an opinion? Call Lynn Cullen at 412-316-3381 or email lynn@pghcitypaper.com. Now, more with Lynn Cullen Live.
All right, in my constant effort to make us all just a little bit more aware, I came upon, I thought, a pretty interesting little piece about how we're being suckered by the food industry. And I know so many people who are so conscientious about what they eat and what they absolutely avoid. Like, I have friends that would no more buy a bag of potato chips than, I mean, especially like a good old-fashioned bag of Lay's potato chips. No. No, instead they would get baked chips, which, I'm sorry, even Lay's makes baked chips, are just nowhere near as good. Is that true? But you get the baked chips because you know they're healthier for you, right? Well, guess what? No, they aren't. Or, may I say, not necessarily. Or may I say that the idea that some of these now supposedly healthier foods are not only not, but because you think they're healthier, you actually eat more of them than you would have of the regular potato chips. Hey, man, these are healthy. So you're chowing them down. And the food industry actually has, it's called better for you foods. And they figured this out. They thought, oh, look, people are getting freaked about trans fats and fried and this and that. So let's trot out a bunch of different stuff and we'll tell them that this is so much better for you. And so that is why now you see, bags of dried fruit slices, organic cookies and bars and yogurts and smoothies and vegetable crisps. Excuse me. Okay. I have a tickle. A tickle. Okay. So, this is all marketing, is what it comes down to. It's all marketing. The widespread belief that these kinds of snacks and foods are better for you, are healthy alternatives, is something, generally speaking, is a bunch of hogwash. It's not that they're better for you. I mean, a better heading, a more truthful heading for them would be maybe for some, less awful for you. So they are not good. In fact, when you buy the one you think is the good one, you might actually be taking in more sugar, more salt, than if you'd done the bad one. I'm going to give you some for instances, okay? Caveat emptor. Okay. I'll give you the Lay's classic potato chips, okay? You're not going to eat those. Why? That's an outrage. I'm going to get this Pop Chip barbecue potato, which advertises itself as much healthier. It only has 120 calories per 20 grams. It's not fried. However, it has only 38 calories less than the fried Lay's chips. Is that worth it to you? 38 calories. And it actually has more salt, more sodium. In fact, 33% more sodium than you would get with the Lay's. Here's one. You can get this at Whole Foods. You can get this at all the stores that carry good food for you. Here it is, Stony Field Farm Organic Yogurt Smoothie. Don't you feel good when you buy something like that? Okay, that'd be 230 calories. And that is 50 calories less than a Snickers bar. Okay, but get this. It has 2 teaspoons of sugar more than the Snickers bar. 2 teaspoons. Oh, Jess is going to argue the point.
Are they natural sugars?
Are they natural sugars as opposed to what? Some kind of fructose or something?
Yeah.
I don't know. Here's one that'll freak you out. Naked Protein Zone Juice Smoothie. Oh, now that sounds very, very healthy. Drop per drop, this has more than 2.5 times the calories of Coca-Cola. 2.5 times, with nearly an extra half teaspoon of sugar for good measure. All I'm saying, the idea here is, don't be a sucker. Come on. Don't be a sucker. Oh, okay. Ansel writes, that's not Ansel. Excuse me. How does that work when it gives you the wrong, you click on Ansel and you get somebody else's? Ansel, I spend far too much time behind this computer in front of my television and browsing information on my phone. We all do. That became very evident last week when a friend invited me to a high school basketball game. I walked into the gym and I said to myself, Look at all these real people. Life is being lived here. I was so blown over to suddenly realize that I wasn't getting out of the house enough. And just to see these people doing something immediate and real, it was a revelation. Oh my God, Ansel. See? Is that scary then? Is that scary? When actually bodily getting yourself to walk, get up, go somewhere where it's not on a screen, where it's happening in reality, in front of you, makes you stop in astonishment. Oh, God. Oh, Dexter writes back. Dexter's the one who says he listens to me for years and years and years and doesn't agree with me and is a conservative. And I said he must think I'm naive but likable or something. He says, no, Lynn, I don't think you're naive. Shame on you. I listen to learn, whether I agree or not. I see it as an opportunity to learn something. And if the show is guided by an enjoyable host, even better. Jeez. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I just think that speaks really well of you. I really, in fact, do. Okay, so I saved this for last, but it's the big story on the Post-Gazette today, and it has to do with the police thing. And Sandra Ganster, she's the woman who she's on involuntary paid leave now. She is the woman who was or I guess sort of still is, the finance manager for the police department. And as such, she's the one who opened that police credit union account that is not a kosher account. And her attorney, William Diefendorfer, I always love that name. Isn't that a funny name? Diefendorfer? Diefendorfer. Anyway, it seems to me he's been around for a while because I've had fun saying his name for ages. He says that she says, and this is what she's told the FBI, that she was instructed by then police chief Nate Harper to open that credit union account, which is now at the focus of this FBI inquiry. And under his orders, she diverted tens of thousands of dollars to that account. And these were funds, the funds she diverted were intended for the city of Pittsburgh. And the credit union account was not a city of Pittsburgh account. And she says, or her attorney says, that in the last 4 or 5 years, since she opened the account in about 2008, I believe, she estimates that between $28,000 to $37,000 was diverted. $28,000 to $37,000 that should have gone into the city's coffers were diverted to this fund and used for things. Now, all I want to say about this is again, the police chief has already lost his job and been sullied and potentially faces criminal proceedings. This woman's been touched. The mayor has said he's not going to seek re-election. There are a number of people that are on leave that have been... Here's what I don't get. It's such penny-ante, picky-unish stuff. We're talking about $30,000 over 4 or 5 years that got stolen, maybe, and put someplace it wasn't supposed to. I think her attorney likened this to, in a private business, this would be like considered petty cash or something. But see, this isn't a private business. This is public dollars. This is our money, and it has to be not screwed with. And why would all these people risk their reputations, their freedom, their jobs, their peace of mind over this kind of... I mean, I don't know. I don't think have many criminal bones in my body, but if I did and I was given to graft and corruption, if I was potentially flirting with going to jail, well, I'd make it worth my while to take that risk. And I'm sorry, a few piddling thousand wouldn't do it, I don't think. Anyway, 2 days before the feds banged on the city's doors, Sandra Gansner, must have known that things were closing in, because she ran to the public safety director, Michael Huss, and told him all of this. And 2 days later, the feds did show up. So whether or not, it's interesting that she waited until, something was about to break before she tried to get out in front of it. She, though, says she told Huss about this account, which also, again, brings back, so Huss seems to have known quite a bit and didn't do a damn thing. And yet nobody seems to be targeting him at all. When asked by reporters about whether or not Ms. Gansner had come to him with concerns about the diversion of funds to the credit union, here was his response: "I can't confirm it or deny it." Unbelievable and sad. Really sad. A lot of people behaving stupidly, a lot of people behaving badly. And, okay, I think I'm done, right? So tonight, yes, 4802 at 7:30, a lot of numbers there. That's the counterpoint-ish end of the week show that I do on public television. And I can't imagine what our subjects will be this week. And then again, I guess I could. So, watch if you want. And I guess that's it, right? So we'll have a weekend.
A warm one.
A warm one. Oh, and we're losing an hour. I forgot all about that. We're losing an hour Saturday night. I always hate that. It screws you up for a while. But anyway, that means that Sunday night is going to be, it's going to be a warm day, and it's going to be light out till like, what, past 7?
Yeah.
Woo-wee! Enjoy. And switch off and walk out into it and enjoy. Yeah. Toodaloo.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.